भगवान् काव्यः ब्रह्मर्षिर्भगवान् काव्यः क्षत्रा बन्धुः च नाहुषः क्षत्रबन्धुश्च नाहुषः राजन्या विपर्योः विपर्योः कस्मात् राजन्य विपर्योः कस्मात् राजन्य विप्रयोः कस्मात् विवाहः प्रतिलोमकः विवाहः प्रतिलोमकः श्रीराजोवाच ब्रह्मर्षिर्भगवान् काव्यः क्षत्रबन्धुश्च नाहुषः राजन्यविप्रयो कस्मात् विवाहः प्रतिलोमकः श्रीराजोवाच ब्रह्मर्षिर्भगवान् काव्यः क्षत्रबन्धुश्च नाहुषः राजन्यविप्रयो कस्मात् विवाहः प्रतिलोमकः नाहुषः राजन्यविप्रयो कस्मात् विवाहः प्रतिलोमकः श्रीराजोवाच ब्रह्मर्षिर्भगवान् काव्यः क्षत्रबन्धुश्च नाहुषः राजन्यविप्रयो कस्मात् विवाहः प्रतिलोमकः. Some devotees from the congregation can chant. काव्यः क्षत्रबन्धुश्च नाहुषः राजन्यविप्रयो कस्मात् प्रतिलोमकः. काव्यः कस्मात् प्रतिलोमकः. Any folk boys? Okay, no. Vivaha pratilomakaha Shirajo Vacha Bhagavantayaha Kshatrabandhuscha Nahushaha Shri Raja Uvacha Maharaj Parikshit inquired, Brahma Rishihi, the best of the Brahmanas, Bhagavan, very powerful, Kavyaha, the best, Shukracharya, Kshatrabandhuhu, belonged to the Kshatriya class, Cha, also, Nahushaha, King Yayati, Rajanya Viprayoho, of a Brahmana and a Kshatriya. Kasmas, how? Vivahaha, a marital relationship. Pratilomakaha, against the customary regulative principles. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Parikshit said, Shukracharya was a very powerful Brahmana and Maharaj Yayati was a Kshatriya. Therefore, I am curious to know how there occurred this Pratiloma marriage between a Kshatriya and a Brahmana. Translation with repetition. Maharaj Parikshit said, Shukracharya was a very powerful Brahmana and Maharaj Yayati was a Kshatriya. Therefore, I am curious to know how there occurred this Pratiloma marriage between a Kshatriya and a Brahmana. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to the Vedic system, marriages between Kshatriyas and Kshatriyas or between Brahmanas and Brahmanas are the general custom. If marriages sometimes take place between different classes, these marriages are of two types, namely Anuloma and Pratiloma. Anuloma marriage between a Brahmana and the daughter of a Kshatriya is permissible. But Pratiloma, marriage between a Kshatriya and the daughter of a Brahmana, is not generally allowed. Therefore, Maharaj Parikshit was curious about how Shukracharya, a powerful Brahmana, could accept the principle of Pratiloma. Maharaj Parikshit was eager to know the cause for this uncommon marriage. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitan Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is a chapter in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto. Chapter is called King Yayati Regains His Youth. And in the 3 verses we have discussed, we have read today, there are a lot of things happening. So let's try to understand some of them. Because Nahusha, the father of Yayati, molested Indra's wife, Shachi, who then complained to Agastya and other Brahmanas. These saintly Brahmanas cursed Nahusha to fall from the heavenly planets and be degraded to the status of a python. Consequently, Yayati became the king. So there is Nahusha. He is in the heavenly planets and he molests Indra's wife. Pitari Brahmshite Sthanat Indranya Dharshanat Tvijaihi. Indranya is Indra's wife. Dharshanat, offended, molested. Something must have happened. We don't know. Maybe more information is there in some other Puranas. Pitari, the father, Sthanad Brahmshite, from his heavenly position, he fell down. Ajagaratvam, Ajagara, snake. Ajagaratvam, prapite, he became a snake. Yayatir abhavan ripaha. So Yayati became the king because his father fell down. Pitari, Sthanat, Brahmshite, fell down. So we can see how even in heavenly planets this kind of things happen. Women get molested. So human life also, human being, society also. These things happen. So Yayati had 4 brothers. 5. Actually, there were 6 sons. We saw in the previous verses. The first one did not want to become a king. He wanted to become a saintly person. So he became a Brahmana. All kinds of caste mixing is happening here. So the first son didn't want to become a king. He wanted to pursue self-realization. So he left his kingdom, palace, and became a sadhu. And so the four younger Yaviyasaha, the younger brothers of Yayati, Adishat, Chatasrishva Adishat Dikshu. So Yayati told his four brothers to go and rule the four directions. Bratran, Bratha, Yaviyasaha. Kritadharo. And then he married. Yayati married. It says Kavyasya Prishaparvanaha. Kavyasya. Kavyasya. Kritadharo. He married the daughters of Kavya, that is Shukracharya, and Vrishaparvanaha, Vrishaparva, another king. He married two daughters. One was the daughter of a Brahmana, Shukracharya, and the other was a daughter of a king, Vrishaparva. So this is what Shukadev Goswami has said. Yayati married two women, one the daughter of a Shukracharya, another daughter of a king. So this triggers a question in the mind of Maharaj Parikshit. Oh, Yayati married daughter of Shukracharya and daughter of Vrishaparva. So Sri Rajo Vacha, he is asking the question. Brahmarshir Bhagavan Kavyaha. Kavyaha, Shukracharya, he is a Brahma Rishi. And he was a powerful Brahma Rishi, Bhagavan Kavyaha. Kshatra Bandhuscha Nahushaha. But Nahushaha was a Kshatra, Kshatra Bandhu. It's here, it says Kshatra Bandhu. We'll keep it as Kshatriya. Rajanya Viprayo Vivahaha. Between a king and a Vipra, Brahmana, Vivahaha has happened. Kasmat. How did this Vivaha happen? Pratilomakaha, which is considered to be a Pratiloma marriage, not customary. So, Maharaj Parikshit said, Shukracharya was a very powerful Brahmana. Bhagavan, Brahmarshir, Bhagavan, Kavya. Maharaj Yayati was a Kshatriya. Nahusha's son is Nahusha. Yayati, Kshatra Bandhu. Therefore, I am curious to know, Kasmat, how, Kasmat, there occurred this Pratiloma marriage, Pratiloma Kaha, Vivahaha, between a Kshatriya and a Brahmana. Rajanya Viprayo Kasmat Vivahaha Pratiloma Kaha. So, Srila Prabhupada has explained in the purport, generally Kshatriyas would marry Kshatriyas, Brahmanas would marry Brahmanas. And sometimes there would be between different Kshatriyas, Brahmanas, marriages would happen. But if such a marriage happens, if a Brahmana husband, man, marries a daughter of a Kshatriya, it's called acceptable, permissible custom. And if a Kshatriya husband marries a daughter of a Brahmana, it is considered pratiloma, not acceptable, not permissible, not according to custom. And that's what has happened here. Yayati marrying Shukracharya's daughter. And so Raja is asking, how did this happen? So this chapter describes how this came about, how Yayati married the daughter of a Brahmana. We'll not go into that. We'll see in the next verses. So here we are reading about Vedic culture, Vedic civilization, how customs worked. Now, how does this apply to us in Kali Yuga? Do we also see these things? And how did Srila Prabhupada, who was an acharya, presenting these things in a modern context, in India, all around the world, and also in India, how did Srila Prabhupada deal with these things? One is a principle. Another is an application of that principle. And this is a principle concerning Vedic culture and Vedic civilization. And how does that apply in Kali Yuga, which is mostly a non-Vedic civilization? So these are some of the things that we have to carefully examine. And of course, in Srila Prabhupada's movement within the ISKCON society, all kinds of marriages have happened, are happening, and will continue to happen, I guess. Because we should understand, it's a fact. Today, all of those practices and customs of Vedic civilization are very difficult to practice. Already we are seeing this generation after generation. Maybe there are a few examples in our country. There are some Brahminical families, strictly Brahminical in practice. Simply as a caste, that's a different thing. Maybe some of you can move a little bit, men devotees and women also, move a little to the front. There are so many men trying to come in. Yes, that's good. So, a true Brahmana is somebody, it is not determined by birth. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishta gunakarma vibhagashaha. It's actually a divine arrangement, this Chaturvarna, but it is not according to birth. And when it is according to birth, it becomes jati. It becomes a caste system. And in our country today, there's a lot of discussion among the educated people that this caste system is very bad, and because that led to exploitation. Historically, it is to be accepted that yes, it led to exploitation. But that's an effect of Kali Yuga. And hence, we need an understanding because there are no qualified Brahmanas. Maybe there are very few qualified Brahmanas. Brahmana is one, Brahma Janati iti Brahmana. One who is trying to understand the absolute truth. He is called a Brahmana. A Brahmana has a spirit, very strong spirit, that I must know the truth. What is the truth in this world? What is this world about? What is this creation all about? Why does the creation exist? How I came and became part of this creation, and then I will be here for some time, and something called Kala moves everything, and I will also be gone. And generations of people come and go. Kings come and go, rich people come and go, common people come and go. Big empires come and go. And when we are in our life is so important for us. This is my family. I have to see that there is, prosperity. We have good homes. Look at our neighbors. They're having bigger car. When we will have a bigger car. All these we are very absorbed in all these things. Our previous ancestors, our forefathers, our grandfather, they also had their life and they were also anxious and they were maintaining their families. Where are all of them? It's all gone, isn't it? I'll ask you one question. If I ask all of you, please tell me your father and mother's name, you will all tell. If I ask you, please tell me your grandfather and grandmother's name from your father's side and your mother's side, you will all be able to tell. If I ask you, please tell me your grandfather's father's name, very few will be able to tell. How many of you will be able to tell your grandfather's mother's name? Very few will be able to tell. Most people would have forgotten. Don't even bother. It doesn't matter. And if I were to ask you your grandfather's name, forget it. This is reality. Even our own children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren will not remember us. We are unimportant. But out of ego, we think we are very important. My life, my society, my family. We, amplified, egoistic life we lead. Thinking everything, I am the center of everything. I'm the center of my family. And when I walk out of the house, I'm the center of the society. With this kind of a blown up, projected, egoistic understanding, but time crushes everything, will be gone. So what is going on here? What's all this about? Why is this happening? Some people are born as men, some people are born as women. Did any of us choose, I should be born as a man, I should be born as a woman? It just happened. Who decided? Did our parents decide? No, even parents were also waiting 9 months. It's going to be boy, girl, boy, girl. And then they said, oh, finally, oh, boy was born, oh, girl was born. Even they couldn't figure out. Some are born very talented. Some are born without any talent. Who decided we should have more talent? We did not decide. Our parents did not decide. If the parents decided, and all those stupid sons and daughters should go and ask their parents, why did you decide that I should be so stupid? They will also say, what to do? You became stupid. It was not in our control. When parents didn't decide how much talent, how much intelligence, how smart, or how stupid we will be, they also, it was not in their control. So who is controlling all this? Some people are born in very poor families, some people are born in very rich families. So what is going on about all these things? Someone who is very curious, very seriously interested to know these things, and that person is ready to make any kind of sacrifice to know the truth. He is a Brahmana. So that's the Brahmana spirit. Strong, intense appetite to know the truth, and that intensity is demonstrated in his willingness to make all kinds of sacrifices for the sake of knowing the truth. And they are called Brahmanas. They lived in a very austere way. They controlled their senses, controlled their mind. And Vedic civilization offered a certain process for controlling the mind, controlling the senses, controlling the life, and purifying oneself, and study the Shastras so that one can understand these higher truths. And somebody who is intensely involved in such Brahma Jigyasa will understand what is that Brahman, the supreme truth. He is called a Brahmana. This is the qualification. This is the real understanding. But in Kali Yuga, to find such examples are very, very rare. And hence, those customs and those systems which existed in a Vedic society are not really possible to practice in this age. Actually, this discussion happens in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, Bhagavatam is a very important scripture. And Bhagavatam, as we all know, is like this, like Prabhupada, verse after verse, translation, purport, word to word meaning, and we read and understand. But actually, before Srila Prabhupada presented Bhagavatam, how Bhagavatam was, this is a very important literature. Someone gifted me one Bhagavatam, Sanskrit Bhagavatam, only Sanskrit. It's a fat book, this big, red calico, and turn inside Sanskrit, dense verses. It's not even verse after verse like we see. It's all running. And when I saw that one, my God, not easy. Not easy to understand such Sanskrit. The way Srila Prabhupada has nicely presented them, we have got used to it. We take it for granted, but actually it's from that calico bound full Sanskrit to a Bhagavatam that Prabhupada has given translation in English for us to be able to understand. It's a huge contribution of Srila Prabhupada. Not a small thing. See, confirmed. So it's a very big contribution made by Srila Prabhupada. There is a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto. You all know the first canto the first chapter of the first canto is called Questions by the Sages of Naimisharanya. And one of the questions they ask, very relevant question. Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne Brahmanye Dharmavarmani Swam Kashtam Adhunopete Dharmaha Kam Sharanam Gataha. Actually, when you read the first canto, first chapter, you read that as questions by the sages of the Brahma, sages of Naimisharanya. In the second chapter, first verse purport, Prabhupada mentions the sages have asked 6 questions. I remember first time when I read, I didn't know there were 6 questions. I was just reading verse after verse after. Oh, then there are 6 questions. You see, actually Srila Prabhupada is spoon feeding us. Otherwise, we are Kali Yuga, we don't have brains to understand all this. At least that was my case. Maybe some of you are different. So this is the last question the sages have asked. Very important question. Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne Brahmanye Dharmavarmani. The sages are asking this question because it's a very important point. It's a very important context we must see. Where are these sages discussing? This is in Naimisharanya. This is happening in Naimisharanya. And they have got news now that Krishna, who was doing his Leela in Dwaraka, has left this world. Swam Kashtam Adhunopeta. Adhuna Upeta. Adhuna, nowadays. We have heard. You should think about Vedic 5,000 years back. Krishna wound up his pastimes and left this world. Next morning, all the newspapers are flashing this information. Shri Krishna. Did it happen? No. There were no such thing as newspapers. Of course, there was no such thing. Breaking news. Krishna just now left the world. Debates happening. No. It was a very slow world, isn't it? It must have been a very slow world. How news information spread. So, they are discussing Swam Kashtam Adhuna Upeta. Krishna. And who is Krishna? Yogeshwara. And he is Brahmanya, Brahmani. He is the absolute truth. See, their sages are all very enlightened people. Param Brahma Param Dhama Pavitram Paramam Bhavan Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhuhu. Arjuna is describing, now understand Krishna who you are. After he was hearing Krishna speak so many things. Earlier he was thinking, he's my cousin after all. He's become a Parthasa, he's my Sarathi. Now he understood. Oh, he's not just my cousin. He is the Supreme Lord, Param Brahma, Parandhama. So, the sages of Naimisharanya who are aware of this, they are saying, Bruhi Yogeshware Krishne, Brahmanye Dharmavarmani. When he was here, he was Dharmavarmani. He was the protector of Dharma. The word Varma, we have a lot of Varmas, right, in our country. Maybe there are some Varmas. Varma means protector. Arma is a Kshatriya name, surname. They were Kshatriyas. They were powerful people. They could protect the world. And so Krishna is Dharmavarmani. Brahmanye Dharmavarmani. That Krishna, who is the absolute truth, who is the protector of Dharma, who is a Yogeshwara, Swam Kashtam Aduno Pete. He has returned Swam Kashtam to his own abode. Swam Kashtam Aduna. Nowadays we have just heard Upete has now gone. Dharmaha Sharanam Kam Sharanam Gataha. Now where has Dharma gone to take shelter? Where do we find Dharma when Dharmavarmani himself has gone? And Dharmavarmani has left and Kali Yuga has begun. Now where is Dharma gone for shelter? This was the sixth question the sages have asked. And the 6 questions, the answer to these 6 questions is the subject matter of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. All the different subjects discussed in the Srimad Bhagavatam, some way or the other relate to these 6 questions. And so these 6 questions and the answers to these 6 questions are being reflected upon, deliberated and turned over and discussed from various angles, and that is Srimad Bhagavatam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next points out, where is the answer for this question? Dharma kam sharanam gataha. Where has Dharma gone for shelter? Where has Dharma gone? Where will we find direction how to practice Dharma properly? That's the meaning. Dharma kam sharanam gataha. How do we find, how will we understand what is proper Dharma in Kali Yuga for all people? 9:24, correct. He did his job rightly. Later in the Srimad Bhagavatam, this is also still in the first canto, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu juxtaposes the two. This was the question and this is the answer. Krishne swadhamopagate dharma gnanadibhis saha kalo nashtadrishamesha puranarko adhunoditaha. Krishna swadhamopagate. Krishna swadhama upagate. When Krishna has gone, returned to his own Swadhama. Swam Kashtam, here Swadhama. Upagate. When Krishna has returned. Dharma Gnanadibhis saha. When Krishna returned, Dharma, Gnana, etc., Vairagya, everything also returned with him because Kali Yuga is going to set in. You will not find dharma properly, you will not find jnana properly, you will not find vairagya properly. So, Krishne swadhama upagate dharma gnanadibhis saha kalau nashtam kalau drishtam kalau drishtana nasham yesha. Those who have lost how to find the direction in Kali Yuga, for them Purana Arka Adhuna Uditaha. This Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam, Uditaha has risen. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the Purana Arka. This is the sun among all the Puranas. So Prabhupada translates Purana Arko Dunoditaha. This Srimad Bhagavatam, brilliant as the sun. This Srimad Bhagavatam is brilliant as the sun. Kalau nashtadrisham, who have lost their, who don't know what is the direction, for them, the Srimad Bhagavatam is the hope. This is where we will find dharma. Dharma has gone and taken shelter of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the conclusion of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the conclusion that has been explained by the other acharyas. So this comes somewhere else in the first canto, in somewhere else. Actually, if you were to have that Bhagavatam, what I was referring to, red calico bound, and to read this verse which is asking, where did Dharma go for shelter? And to some 1,500 pages of that book, to figure out a direction, how difficult it would be. So, what we follow, Srimad Bhagavatam, is revolutionary in its understanding. In the previous verse and the previous verse's purport, Prabhupada shows this. I mentioned earlier, Yayati was the second son. The first son was first son of Nahusha. He didn't want to become a king because he thought, if I become a king, I cannot pursue self-realization. And he left home and did not want to become a king. You see, this was the fear. This is normal fear. If I become a king, I'll become a worldly person. I cannot pursue spiritual life. This was the normal Vedic understanding. So he left. Srimad Bhagavatam says, no, you don't have to leave. You can be a king and you can also practice spiritual life. This is the new revolutionary idea Srimad Bhagavatam presents. Srimad Bhagavatam is very, very revolutionary in its presentation. This loma, pratiloma, anuloma, or none of those things applicable when you are following Bhagavatam. You don't have to worry about any of those things. So, in the previous verse, Prabhupada is writing about this because the Bhagavatam says, the translation, when one enters the post of king or head of the government, one cannot understand the meaning of self-realization. This is what the brother of Yayati felt, elder brother. Oh, if I become a king, I cannot understand the meaning of self-realization. This is what he said. Atmanam na avabhudyate yatra pravishtaha purushaha rajyam naichat yati pitra dattam tat parinamavat yatra pravishtaha purushaha atmanam na avabhudyate. If I become a king, Atmanam na avabudhyate. I will not be understands who is the self. This is normal Vedic understanding. But the Srimad Bhagavatam says, Sthane stitaha shruti gatam tanuvan manobhir ye prayaso ajita jitopyasi traistrilokyam. But Srimad Bhagavatam presents, no, you remain in your own position. But Srila Prabhupada very nicely explains this. It is specifically mentioned here that if one enters political life, especially in modern day, one loses the chance for human perfection. Nonetheless, one can attain the highest perfection if one hears Srimad Bhagavatam. This hearing is described as Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Maharaj Parikshit was involved in politics. But because at the end of his life he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami, he attained perfection very easily. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has therefore suggested, Sthane stitaha shrutigatam tanuman manobhir. Regardless of whether one is in the mode of passion, ignorance or goodness, if one regularly hears Srimad Bhagavatam from the self-realized soul, one is freed from the bondage of material involvement. So this is the position of Srimad Bhagavatam, and those who are practicing Srimad Bhagavatam, we are supposed to practice Srimad Bhagavatam in Kali Yuga, because we will find dharma here. This is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught. Don't worry about all those Vedic prescriptions. They're all too complex. Not easy for everyone to follow. And the easy process is the one that is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srila Prabhupada very painstakingly translated verse after verse, word after word, writing purports, sitting all night. Can you imagine? Prabhupada would go to bed by about 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock in the night. And he would wake up at 12 midnight. Just 2 hours sleep. At 12 o'clock, midnight, he would open the Bhagavatam and start dictating the purports. Up to 5 a.m. Whether he was traveling, whether he was in America, whether he was in Europe, whether he was in Australia, wherever he traveled, Prabhupada would maintain this schedule. While all his young disciples were sleeping nicely, he would be writing up in the night. See? Once early in the morning, his disciple who was playing the role of his assistant, he was his servant. He got up, maybe 4 o'clock, had his bath, and then came and he saw Prabhupada's room. It was dark, but there was a table lamp. He could see there was a dim light, and Prabhupada was sitting behind the desk. And he heard Prabhupada, sentence by sentence, speaking, translating the Bhagavatam. Click. He would use a dictaphone. Click. He would speak 1 or 2 or 3 sentences. Sometimes not even a complete sentence. Switch off. Read. Refer to the previous Acharya's commentaries. Again, so painstakingly Prabhupada was doing this. And then his servant wanted to tell Prabhupada that he is there in case Prabhupada wants anything. So he made some noise, little noise, just to indicate that Prabhupada, I am here. Prabhupada used to have a bell, and he rang the bell. So immediately he went inside, paid his obeisance. Prabhupada, anything you want? Prabhupada said, don't disturb. I'm writing these purports. Every word I have to choose carefully. Every sentence, every word, I have to carefully choose. So the servant thought that I can help him, and he made some small disturbance. Prabhupada felt that was a disturbance. And he said, okay, Srila Prabhupada paid his respects and went away silent. And Prabhupada continued. Like this, these books were written. So it's a very special contribution of Srila Prabhupada. This is how special Bhagavatam is. And so, Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the right direction, and Prabhupada made a system. Every day we should read and hear Srimad Bhagavatam. That is part of the program that Srila Prabhupada gave. You see, this process, the process of Krishna sadhana that we have to follow, what we should do, what we should not do, that method which will transform our heart and make us devotees of Krishna, that rules, methods, rules and regulations, that is called Bhakti Lata Bija. It's a seed. If we follow that process, the result will come. And so Prabhupada has given us these methods, rules and regulations of devotional service, and we should follow that, and we will be blessed with Krishna Bhakti. We'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Nitai Gauranga ki, Nitai Go Premanande.